NASA just approved something no one saw coming. A plan that could see the Space Shuttle Discovery torn apart and moved from the Smithsonian to Texas. Americans are outraged, experts are warning of irreversible damage, and many are asking, why risk destroying a national treasure? Is this politics, power, or profit? The truth behind NASA's decision will shock you. Let's dive right in. Something unbelievable is happening, and most Americans still don't know it. NASA has quietly approved a plan that could see the Space Shuttle Discovery, the nation's most iconic spacecraft, cut apart and moved out of the Smithsonian. This isn't a rumor. It's written into law, hidden deep inside a massive government spending package, the Big Beautiful Bill Act. A small provision gives the green light to relocate a U.S. spacecraft to a new permanent exhibition site. Everyone inside Washington knows that spacecraft means discovery, and the timeline, just 18 months. The White House Budget Office has already instructed NASA and the Smithsonian to begin preparations immediately for a transfer by January 2027. At first glance, it sounds simple. Pack it up, ship it out, rebuild it somewhere else. But here's the devastating truth. Discovery can't be moved intact. The only feasible way, according to joint analysis from NASA and the Smithsonian, is to cut the shuttle into multiple sections, essentially dismantling one of the most important machines ever built by humankind. For anyone who's seen Discovery at the Udvar-Hazy Center in Virginia, this is hard to process. Standing beneath it, you don't just see a spacecraft, you feel history. It's the same shuttle that launched the Hubble Space Telescope, carried John Glenn back to space, and returned NASA to flight after both Challenger and Columbia. Every tile and scar tells a story. Discovery has over 22,000 heat-resistant tiles, and roughly 17,000 are completely original, the same ones that face 3,000 degrees Fahrenheit re-entry heat on 39 missions. NASA engineers warn that 90% of those tiles would be destroyed during disassembly, even under ideal conditions. Once removed, they crumble like eggshells. The shuttle's white thermal blankets, a fabric designed to shield it from extreme temperatures, would also be lost forever. And it's not just cosmetic damage. Inside Discovery are thousands of unique systems, connectors, and structures preserved specifically for future engineers and researchers. Once dismantled, it would never be possible to restore the spacecraft to its original condition. That means future generations, students, scientists, historians, lose a direct link to one of America's greatest engineering triumphs. Officially, the move is being pushed by Texas Senators Ted Cruz and John Cornyn, who argue that Houston, home to NASA's Johnson Space Center, deserves a shuttle more than Washington, D.C. They claim Houston was unfairly denied in 2011 when NASA distributed the orbiters. But history says otherwise. 15 years ago, NASA held a rigorous, transparent evaluation process. Dozens of institutions competed. The final four were chosen based on historical significance, accessibility, and preservation capability. Kennedy Space Center, Florida; California Science Center, Los Angeles; Intrepid Museum, New York; Smithsonian Air and Space Museum, Washington, D.C. Houston didn't make the cut, not because of bias, but because NASA believed the Smithsonian was best equipped to preserve Discovery's legacy for the entire nation, not just one state. So why resurrect this issue now? Because politics never forgets. For Cruz and Cornyn, this is a symbolic win, a gift to Texas, wrapped in patriotism, but driven by political optics. But to historians and aerospace veterans, it's a dangerous precedent, one that could politicize the Smithsonian itself. The backlash has been swift and passionate. Within weeks, a grassroots campaign called KeepTheShuttle.org gained national attention. It's led by citizens, historians, and space enthusiasts, people with no political agenda, just love for the program. One of them, who literally got married beneath Discovery's nose, says it best. This isn't about a spacecraft. It's about who we are as a nation. He's right. Because if Discovery, a national treasure protected by the Smithsonian, can be relocated with a single political signature, what's next? Could Texas demand the Hope Diamond next? Could Kansas take back Dorothy's ruby slippers? It sounds absurd, but once that door opens, there's no closing it. That's why even former astronauts like Senator Mark Kelly, who flew aboard Discovery twice, have joined the opposition, calling the plan an irreversible mistake. Supporters say the relocation will bring Discovery closer to the people. But here's what they don't say. It comes with an $85 million price tag, money that hasn't even been appropriated by Congress yet. That funding is now the main battlefield. If it's blocked in the 2026 budget, Discovery stays. If it passes, the move becomes inevitable. Beyond the money, the logistics are insane. Discovery is 122 feet long, 78 feet wide, and 57 feet tall. To reach the nearest waterway for transport, it would have to be hauled 25 miles across northern Virginia, through bridges, highways, and suburbs, just to get to the Potomac River. Los Angeles faced a similar challenge when moving Endeavour only 12 miles. It took weeks, millions of dollars, and required cutting down hundreds of trees. Now imagine doing that across multiple states, all for a move that damages the artifact. Even local officials in Fairfax County have publicly opposed the idea, warning of massive disruption and potential destruction of irreplaceable heritage. Inside NASA, the situation is deeply divided. Acting Administrator Duffy reportedly supports the move, citing national access as justification. But many NASA veterans see it as an act of vandalism. One former shuttle engineer said bluntly, "You can't take Discovery apart and call it preservation." That's destruction with paperwork. Smithsonian curators are caught in the middle, pressured by the federal order, but sworn by charter to protect artifacts from political influence. Their leaked letter to Congress confirmed the worst. Disassembly is the only possible way to move Discovery safely. Once that became public, outrage exploded across the space community. At this point, it's not just about a spacecraft anymore. It's about what this decision represents. Discovery isn't just metal and tiles. It's a monument to American ambition. The ship that connected generations of explorers, scientists, and dreamers. To cut it apart for political convenience is more than bad policy. It's a betrayal of national identity. Every scar on Discovery's hull tells a story of risk, tragedy, recovery, and triumph. It represents everything NASA stood for: resilience, unity, and the courage to dream bigger. Destroying that legacy for a headline undermines decades of sacrifice by thousands of engineers, astronauts, and families who dedicated their lives to space exploration. And that's why this fight matters. Because this isn't just about moving an artifact, it's about protecting the integrity of history itself. The 2026 budget discussions will determine Discovery's fate. Right now, bipartisan members of Congress are preparing amendments to block the funding. Grassroots movements are growing daily, urging Americans to contact their representatives and demand one simple action: don't fund the destruction of Discovery. Across social media, hashtags like #SaveDiscovery and #KeepTheShuttle are uniting people who rarely agree on anything else. They're sharing photos, stories, and memories. From kids who watched Discovery's last launch to NASA retirees who once touched its skin. Because this fight isn't about nostalgia. It's about what kind of country the United States wants to be. One that preserves its achievements or one that sacrifices them for politics. If Congress blocks the funding, Discovery remains safely at the Smithsonian, intact, protected, and accessible to everyone. If not, work crews could begin disassembly within 12 months. Once that happens, the shuttle's authentic structure and everything it symbolizes will be gone forever. This moment will set a precedent that reaches far beyond one artifact. If Discovery can be cut up and moved, no piece of history is safe. So when people ask why this matters, why one spacecraft should cause so much outrage, the answer is simple: because history doesn't get a second chance. And this is exactly why the fight over Discovery matters. It's not just about a spacecraft. It's about protecting the legacy that defines American space exploration. If we can't safeguard our own history, how can we lead humanity's future beyond Earth? As NASA prepares for Artemis and new private missions push boundaries, this debate reminds us that progress means nothing if we lose the stories that built it. So what do you think? Should Discovery stay at the Smithsonian, or does Houston deserve a second chance? Let me know in the comments below. If you found this video valuable, don't forget to like, comment, and subscribe to Space Hub, and turn on notifications so you never miss the latest updates on space breakthroughs and missions that shape our future. Because every story we protect today becomes the foundation for tomorrow's journey to the stars.